And first of all, just a quick little thought. We really appreciate as a council having you here and having you involved and having great residents that care about the city. So I'll say a prayer and then I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, okay? Our dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for this opportunity we have to serve on the City Council and to be joined with residents from our community. We're grateful for the responsibility and the privilege that we have to represent our city. We ask you to please bless us with peace and confidence and kindness in the way that we are able to listen and engage with people on issues that are important to them. We're grateful for our freedom and to be able to live in America and to be here in Kaysville. And we say this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, like I said, we want to welcome everyone. For those who are new to our City Council meeting, I just want to go over a few quick little, this is how we do it in Kaysville, kind of outline. The first item will be, it's called Call to the Public. So I want to just let you know how that will work. We do have we have speakers in the lobby. So first of all, if you will try to minimize your conversation in here. We do record these meetings, and in order for the recording to be really clear, we want to make sure that we don't have a lot of audience chatter, because it's hard for people who are watching online to listen. If you do have a conversation you'd like to have, we'd love to invite you to the lobby. And we can shut the doors so you can have your conversation, and we'll continue with our meeting. Call to the public is, at the very beginning of our meeting, we have the opportunity for public comment. It's 3 minutes. There'll be a timer, and when the 3 minutes is over, your microphone will just die. So you'll know that that's your time. During Call to the Public, we don't respond to you. It's your time to talk to us, and we will circle back if you have questions, and we'll do our best to address those later in the meeting. So we have 2 people signed up to speak. We have Greg Ferguson and Jill Dredge. So if you'll come up in that order, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. I don't know what has transpired since the meeting a month ago concerning the location of the emergency shelter for the cold nights. There's just a couple of things I'd just like to point out. Having read and reread this House Bill 499, just a couple of things that I would like to mention. I think, having been to the City Council meeting, it appears as though, the County Council, it appears as though they believe that they have the final word in where this goes. I would like to just point out that in the bill, in section 10-8-41-6, section 7A3, it states, beginning July 1st, 2022, the retail tobacco business is not located within 1,000 feet of a public or private kindergarten, elementary, middle, junior high, or high school. They refer to the tobacco business in House Bill 499 as the community location, meaning the same terms as was used in that section on the tobacco. It also applies to this, House Bill 499. And I would also just mention that, having read House Bill 499, it appears that the county commissioners have 1 vote on the 8-member council on who decides where this goes. I don't believe that they have the opportunity or the power to make that decision on their own. 8 people, each with 1 vote. Mayor Tran, you're one of them. And just to make that clear, because having been to that county commission meeting, they honestly appeared to me as though they have the final word on this, and I believe that is incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. thanks for all the work you're doing on this. A question came up for me today as I was reading about Denver and their situation with the homeless situation there. They are now building next year they're going to build a lot of homeless shelters to get people, can you hear? To get people off of the streets. So the question I have, as we read about the Code Blue and the either Community Resource Center, which we're questioning, is that the same as a homeless shelter, or is that the same thing, just under two different names? And does each city have to do a plan for both? Is it a plan for the Code Blue and a plan for a homeless shelter / Community Resource Center? Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Each city. Just writing down your question there. Okay. We have some exciting presentations. So first of all, we will turn the time over for the Employee of the Quarter Award to Robin Dixon. Robin is fantastic. I first met you when I was teaching karate lessons, I think, for my kids probably 20 years ago. And that was my first interaction with you at the city. And so you've been fantastic. I'll turn the time over to, who's going to bring? Cole. Yeah, there you are, Cole. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. It's a privilege to recognize Robin Dixon as the Employee of the Quarter. She's, as Mayor Tran mentioned, she's been Employee of the City for 20-plus years. I think back to 2004-ish, 2002, so almost as long as me. So anyway, she's just a great employee in our department, represents Kaysville City in a very professional way. Just a little bit about what Robin does. She's a recreation coordinator. So she's programming our soccer program, junior jazz, 2,300 kids in soccer and 1,500 kids in basketball, games on countless Saturdays. And she goes above and beyond in every aspect when it comes to her job. And then, of course, what we like to term in our department, the other duties as assigned. She feels those other duties as assigned. And this year, the other duty as assigned was to working with the parade as the liaison from our staff to the parade. And so she just does an exceptional job, and it's just my honor to recognize Robin Dixon as the Employee of the Quarter. We have a little plaque for you, and then just a financial award for you. So thank you.
Thank you. Will you stay up, Robin? We want to grab a picture with you.
Unless you want to give a speed. No, okay.
Robin prefers to be behind the scenes.
Kaysville's so lucky. We have a lot of people who've worked here a really long time, and you're the backbone and created our city, so we appreciate all the work that you've done. We have another presentation. It's the Key to the City for Chris Snell. So before I turn the time over to Mayor Hyatt to do most of the presenting for this, I just want to say, so when I first became mayor a couple years ago, all of a sudden I had all of these opportunities to do things in the city, and I was not prepared for a lot of the work that came with this new role. And I remember Mayor Witt said, okay, oh yeah, and you also have the patriotic devotional. And I said, wait, what? And she said, don't worry, Chris takes care of it. And so Chris, we were talking to each other, we already knew each other, and he just said, yeah, I've got it. And he just has run with it for so many years prior to me being involved. And so totally appreciate what you've done. We would like to invite Mayor Hyatt to come up, and he's got some things that he'd like to share since he worked with you, Chris, for a long time. For those that don't know, this is Mayor Steve Hyatt. He was the mayor. He can explain. He was the mayor in Kaysville for 2 terms a couple years ago. He's wonderful.
It's been a little while.
What? Yeah, for sure.
I don't know that I have the presentation because Mayor Tran is so articulate, but I am very grateful for the honor to be here today to honor Chris Snell. I first knew Chris as a neighbor way back in 2002, and immediately I knew that he was a great influencer and a great individual. In 2007, I decided to run for the open seat that Chris vacated on the city council. And I remember counseling with him over and over and said, you know, I'd like to maybe be a city council member. Does it take a lot of time? How challenging is it? He's like, it is easy. It is no problem at all. And after 10 years of public service, I love Chris with every fiber of my being, except for that one misrepresentation that day. But just to echo what Mayor Tran said, even when I was serving as mayor, Chris he retired from the city council, was willing to take on the patriotic devotional, and then we appointed him back to the city council to fill a vacant term, and I was able to remind him just how much he misrepresented and give him a little bit extra assignments. But there are very few members of the community who give so much, who are so genuine and sincere in what they do and willing to offer their time, but not only offer their time, offer their honest and heartfelt advice on what's best for the community. And so I would just like to say, not only for the Patriotic Devotional, but Kaysville has many, many years of blessings that we'll continue to receive as a result of Chris Snell's service. So thank you, Chris.
Let's clap for him. Yeah, thank you. I was just going to add, so when I decided I wanted to run for city council, same kind of thing, I reached out to Chris and said, hey, so what's it like serving on council? He's like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. But he'd done it and he knew it and he put in so many hours and so many years of your life. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. The Patriotic Devotional is a big deal. In fact, Mayor Hyatt has been willing to help me the last couple years, and it's a big deal. I mean, it takes a lot of hours, a lot of coordination. It's an event where we have it at Davis High. We have a speaker. We've had famous people speak. The Davis High Marching Band is there. They have other bands, other speakers. It's just a really big, wonderful program that I think has happened in Kaysville for maybe 50 years or something.
Yeah, I asked Chris about this, and he said, we think it's 48. Okay. And no one really knows, so we're going to go with that and say that it's official.
It's a long-standing tradition anyway, and Chris has been a huge part of that, so thank you. Come on up. We will present this to you. So on behalf of Kaysville City, we want to award Chris with the key to the city. We don't give this award out very often. It's only for really special people who really put in the extra work and make a huge difference in our community, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Absolutely. Thanks so much. Thank you. While everyone's coming, I'm just going to make a comment that with both of you, I misled you about running for office and the time commitment that was involved because I knew how special you'd be. And if I scared you off, I didn't want to do that. So thank you for, believing me.
Thank you. We totally believe you still. Okay. If Chris's family would come up, that would be great. We'll get a picture of you guys. Thanks for being here.
You guys are fancy.
Oh, man. It was that way.
I think you have an Android, don't you?
Robin, I forgot to invite your family up here with you. Can we do a picture with you guys?
You guys are all leaving what will be a riveting meeting. I hope you know.
Christian stay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she just forgot. Thank you. Take care, Nate.
Thanks, you guys, for being here. That was fantastic. I'll now turn the time over to Josh for our annual Public Works Department report. We're so excited to have you here, Josh.
I can feel
your excitement as well.
in the room. Mayor and council, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. It's been 2 years since I've been here to share a lot of super interesting facts and information with you. We'll touch a little bit on this in the report. Last year we didn't do a department report because of trying to deal with some of the issues from the runoff flooding last year up east of Highway 89. So I know you've missed this, but thank you again. So a little bit about Public Works, what we're responsible for here in Kaysville City. Public Works oversees the city's streets network. That's roughly 137 miles of public streets. There's more than four, but four that the city is responsible for maintenance of traffic signals, including one hawk signal on the rail trail near Smith's. We take care of snow plowing for public roads. That's 20-ish plows, depending on maintenance issues that we may or may not be having. They oversee traffic calming, so that's a lot of coordination with the police department and collecting and reviewing data. Street signs, we handle all of the install and repair of street signs, curb and street painting, tree trimming, particularly roadside tree trimming, the coordination with residents as trees have a tendency to impact the ability that we have to plow snow, ensuring good garbage pickup and mail delivery. The streets department also is Public Works management arm for our fleet and equipment. They are involved with testing of subgrade for new subdivisions, so the roads going in there. Curb and sidewalk repair and replacement, a lot of coordination with residents and other individuals, as well as just a lot of miscellaneous support for other departments and some small projects that we undertake from time to time. Stormwater, the city has about 310 miles or so of underground stormwater piping and land drain. They oversee inspecting, cleaning, and fixing those pipes. They oversee street sweeping, the city's MS4 permit, which is the permit that the state and the EPA give Kaysville City, allowing us to take stormwater and discharge it into streams, creeks, the Great Salt Lake. There's a litany of requirements that come with that permit. One of those requirements is training all city staff, including part-time staff, on stormwater requirements. It's everybody's favorite part of the year, every year when we get to redo the stormwater training. Stormwater sampling, looking for potential contaminants and entering these waterways. Illicit discharge detection and elimination. It's close coordination with both the state and county on potential spills, both on roadways, streams, etc. There's an annual report that we compile each year for the state as part of our MS4. Contractor assistance and education. We have a great staff in the stormwater department that work closely with contractors to help them both understand the requirements and help them address issues as they come up. Garbage can maintenance, delivery, storage, and we're also part of the Davis County Stormwater Coalition, which helps meet some of the MS4 requirements for education, outreach. Our water department, drinking water, we have about 165 miles of underground drinking water pipes. Again, we oversee the maintenance and repairs on these pipes. The city currently has 7 underground tanks, totaling about 8.5 million gallons of storage. We get pretty close to about 1 billion gallons that we receive each year from Weber Basin and put into our distribution system. The tanks that we do have provides maybe 2 to 3 days of storage, which most of the time isn't an issue, but instances where we have, the Highway 89 project had to shut down the Weber Basin feed to us, and that every bit of 3 days got us what we felt like was uncomfortably close to insufficient storage. So something that we're constantly looking at and thinking about. 3,600 valves, 17 fire hydrants. Those are all items that we're trying to look at as frequently as possible, especially fire hydrants, wanting to make sure that those are functioning properly. 9,000 service lines and meters, so these are water meters in the home that help determine the billing and usage for each connection. The city also has an AMI network that collects all of that information remotely, bringing it to City Hall. Previously, we'd shut down our department for 2 to 3 weeks a month and send the majority of our department out to go and manually look at each of the 9,000 meters to get the reading. We've got 6 chlorine monitoring stations. We're required by the EPA to have some sort of disinfectant. Most of the cities here in the state of Utah use chlorine, so we want to make sure that we're maintaining a minimum level so that if something were introduced, somebody illegally hooked up to our water system, there's enough chlorine in that water that it could keep anything that might get introduced at bay. We have 3 large pump houses up on the east side that we're able to help move water from different areas and into some of our storage tanks. 28 PRVs that help bleed off the pressure, 9 pressure zones throughout town. So as water reaches these PRVs, it reduces the pressure as it continues west so it doesn't build up too great. 55 air vacs, over 600 backflow assemblies, and those are at locations where mostly up at Orchard Ridge and Talbot Estates, where homes are utilizing drinking water for irrigation. Everywhere else in Kaysville, it's not permitted. And then overall compliance and water quality reporting and other activities. Engineering and inspection. We undertake plan review and coordination for city-owned utilities. We provide inspection and oversight on construction projects for city utilities, as well as roadways in residential and commercial locations. We also undertake at least 1 or 2 city projects a year that we're inspecting and coordinating on with contractors. A lot of interdepartmental coordination. That's been one of the huge values that we've seen of the engineer position is the ability to coordinate, with the Parks Department on the East Mountain Wilderness Park, providing a bit of support there with the fire department as they've looked at a couple of different items and issues. And as we look towards the future and trying to be more long range and strategic in our planning, being able to work with other departments, it's not just Public Works that wants to look long range, but how does Public Works integrate with or impact other departments within the city? How we do what we do. The Streets Department is comprised of 4 full-time staff, and funding, depending on, is it things like wages or projects or materials, et cetera. A combination of Class C funds, Davis County Active Transportation Option, the road fee, the general fund. Stormwater is 5 full-time staff, and that's funded by the stormwater utility. Water, 8 full-time staff, and funded by water revenue. Engineering and inspection is 2 full-time staff, and they kind of share the cost for that amongst the various sources. And same for our admin, Amanda, and the operations manager for the department, Cody. This last year, a couple of notable items. Last year we bought a new street sweeper. It's essentially doubled the capacity on the hopper for that truck, the amount of debris it can carry at any given time. And that's over doubled what we've been able to accomplish in terms of sweeping. That plus having a machine that's not down as frequently, going from just under 200 miles of swept streets. We're now over 500 with approximately 200 tons, so maybe 20 plus dump truck loads that we've removed from city streets just from that sweeping. Cleaning underground pipes, they fill with anything from tree roots, calcium, garbage that people might leave on the side of the road. The new vac truck that we got last year, upgrading from our previous vac truck, not only has improved the efficiency of that operation, I think we were about 120 tons previously in the previous year, but also has functionality that we were able to use that up at Orchard Ridge during some of the flooding to help try and keep water out of the subdivision and send it elsewhere. It has some functionality there that we were grateful to have. Managing all the SWIPs, that's stormwater pollution prevention plans for all of the construction sites. Over 2,000 garbage cans delivered. And then, as I mentioned, Orchard Ridge was a citywide effort last year. Power, parks, admin, community development, mechanics were up there helping. I mean, just something that, forever be grateful for the help that we received. That was largely spearheaded by the stormwater department. Water, this last year, each year we increase our focus on sampling, monitoring water quality, flushing. Right now you see a lot of hydrants being flushed, and that's all preventative action that we're taking to stay ahead of potential problems that could arise. We don't want to get close, so we take these preventative measures. As we undertake those preventative measures, though, that puts a strain and a stress on the water system, and we see increases in the number of leaks due to pressure fluctuation, actuating valves, things like that. So 130 water leaks approximately last year, and we see that number slowly increasing every year, even as we replace some of our aging infrastructure. It's almost like fixing one thing shifts some of the burden to other aging infrastructure. Last year we replaced the water line in 400 West, and that was noteworthy for a couple reasons, but that was the first opportunity that the city had to fully engineer and coordinate a project internally without utilizing outside engineering help. That took a lot of finagling, for lack of a better term, to work that into Dexter's schedule. But that was neat to see the potential there as we move forward in the future. A lot of upcoming projects that we're still working on designs for, largely related to replacing aging infrastructure. This last year, as part of an EPA requirement, we've been inventorying our water service lines, so identifying predetermined numbers of lines that run from the city's main into your water meter to determine what type of material is that made of. Particular focus on lead service lines, trying to identify those and eliminate those. And that's been a massive effort, looking at thousands of locations, digging those up, getting eyes on those. And then also, I think very noteworthy is evaluating source redundancy. Right now, I mentioned every drop of water that we get in Kaysville is from Weber Basin. And while they're a good partner to work with, it's not a comfortable situation to rely on one source 100%. If there's an issue with them, then we are at the mercy of whatever that issue is. Many of the other communities in Davis County and throughout the state have alternative sources, things like wells and springs that they can utilize. Kaysville had wells that they utilized in the early 1900s and eventually moved away from those. So we're looking at wells and other potential sources again to not only help with additional source, but also looking at improving water quality as well. There we go. In the streets department last year, snow plowing, 2023 was a huge year for snow. As we track these vehicles, they have a GPS unit in them. Over 18,000 miles of roads plowed, over 8,000 vehicle hours, and 4,100 tons of salt used in that series of storms. Completion of the West Davis Corridor connector and the trails, that's in conjunction with the new highway and working closely with Farmington on that project. Something that is 6+ years in the making, and excited to see that finally finishing up. The Burnt Lane Roundabout, probably a relatively small project in terms of scope related to our other projects, but probably the project I'm the most grateful to have completed. And I know John is way bummed, Councilman Adams is way bummed to have that completed. I think he really loved. I've got more if you would like some as a memento. A lot of sidewalk repairs, 600 tons of pothole repairs, and over 100 tons of crack sealing performed last year. Challenges this last year, staffing, it kind of ebbs and flows. This last year still had some turnover that we had to deal with. We've seen an increase in the number of outside offers coming to our staff, and surprisingly, outside offers from private contractors that interact with our staff on a regular basis, get to know them and make offers. We've been lucky this year. We were able to get Dexter back, the city engineer, and only other loss that we had last year, just one individual. The impact of that is, as I've noted here, the loss of institutional knowledge is probably the thing that we struggle with the most, in addition to just the good people that we like to work with. Aging infrastructure in all the departments, Kaysville is not immune, and that's probably something that will make some people chuckle. But it's something that we try to make strides with as much as we can, but it's trying to fight the battle of not decreasing the quality of our infrastructure faster than we're able to increase it. Aging equipment, as I mentioned, a couple of pieces of equipment, and the help that we've received, especially from council the last few years at updating equipment, seeing a lot less downtime, particularly with things like snow plows, and being able to keep those items running. Supply chain issues, things are starting to improve somewhat in terms of availability. What we were seeing, double, triple, quadruple wait times on items are now back to maybe double. Inflation is still a concern that we're dealing with. Contractor availability is huge. There's just so much money and so much project work out there trying to get people here for our projects has become increasingly difficult. Each year, state and federal regulations seem to increase in terms of new or existing, providing us with additional work to oversee, and then just keeping up with growth, like the other departments in the city, as the city develops, grows, and changes, trying to manage and keep up with that. Critical needs. My main focus on this, and my sole focus, is water. As I've mentioned before, we spend every single day, I was about to say mostly every single day, but it is every single day. Weekends, holidays, we have staff in here monitoring at various locations throughout town, looking at water quality. That's our primary focus and concern. We know that streets are important. We know that storm drain is important, but providing reliable and healthy drinking water is our paramount concern in anything that we do. And that often requires other departments to stop what they're doing and come assist. Chlorine residuals, as I mentioned, we're required to have a disinfectant in our water. And this is one of the items that we're looking at probably more than most indicators, key indicators of water quality. Residuals, the amount of chlorine that's available in the water to deal with any issue that might arise, is very much affected by temperatures. High temperatures have an inverse correlation with chlorine. You'll see a decrease in chlorine availability. Cul-de-sacs, dead-end lines are major issues with chlorine residuals. If you have quite a few people in a cul-de-sac, Mayor, if you and all your neighbors went out of town, you would come back and you might notice, some discoloration or even, taste differentials, the way the water smells. And so that's a huge focus for us. And as we've been able to coordinate with other municipalities, everybody's largely dealing with the same issues of struggling to keep up and stay well in front on water quality concerns. A lot of new federal regulations. We probably deal with these the most in the water department. Items like UCMR, the unregulated contaminants rule, and Councilmember Hunt talking to her about PFAS, forever chemicals, lead and copper surveys, just increasing the amount of time that we have to spend in meeting those federal and state requirements. Skyrocketing costs. I think water's probably been hit the hardest with this, as you're well aware. We had coordinated with UDOT as part of their repaving this summer for Main Street, 400 West, or the 200 North repaving, 400 West to Main Street. We were going to replace a water line that we're starting to have a lot of issues with leaks. We ended up having to cancel that because the bid came back at, I think, 65% above what the opinion of probable cost was, and that was with a 25% contingency, that opinion. So right now we're spending a lot of time flushing, bringing employees in on weekends to assist with that, just to, as I said, stay ahead of potential issues and maximize water quality. As I also mentioned, that leads to leaks that we deal with. So I think in the last week or so, we've had close to 8 or 9 leaks to deal with. As we've been flushing, that causes issues with some metal particulates that can accumulate on the bottom of pipes, getting stirred up. That can be kind of the main culprit with, if you have discolored water, those particulates clog the PRVs. We've got to go out and disassemble those, shut them down, clean those, put them back into service. And then this last year, really the last 2.5 years, but especially this last year, just trying to get creative, identifying, where are we struggling to keep up or stay ahead of issues, and kind of changing the roles and responsibilities of several people to put some additional hats on those individuals. We've reclassified an individual as, instead of a maintenance worker, they're now also an inspector. They still will do some maintenance work, but trying to keep up with fiber projects, trying to keep up with private utility projects, city projects, repairs, etc., and then subdivisions, as well as we mentioned the approximately 600 backflow assemblies for people that use drinking water for irrigation. Each of those has got to be inspected on an annual basis, and reports created for those to provide to the state. So trying to move some things around with that individual, the individual in our department that's in charge of mapping and the GIS platform within Public Works, sharing some of their responsibilities, helping with a lot of sampling, helping with IT and some of the form creations and the software that we use, and then other general support of departments both within Public Works and outside of Public Works. Water is where we are struggling the most right now. Like I said, to stay in front of problems, and huge credit to Jared, the water manager, Jesse, the water quality admin, especially everybody, but especially those two, the amount of time and focus that they're spending each year, particularly right now in the summer months. We're doing the best that we can to keep anything from, as Chief Erickson would say, falling off the truck. And each year, that's getting a little bit more and more difficult. So with that, that's the end of my slides, and turn it back over to council for any questions.
Go ahead. Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, thank you for that report. That was excellent. And I imagine you don't have a lot of free time on your hands, you and your staff. Thank you for everything that you do. And I think this is a good reminder to the public as well. This is just one department, but how much goes into it and how much is needed to keep our pipes, our roads, and everything in good working order. You mentioned the potential of tapping into some new wells, and I'm curious about that. Would that, if we create a well and pull water out of that, is there any threat to the water table as far as nearby homes, their foundations? Because I've heard of other cities in Davis County and other places where they've had some issues with the water table, and so I'm just curious if you could speak to that.
Yeah, for sure. So what you're referring to is called well drawdown. Drinking water wells are drilled at a deeper depth than like untreated water irrigation wells, but it's still a item that is considered when the state reviews an application for a new well. They'll advertise that throughout the area to see if there's any interested parties, you're especially going to see other well right holders that have interest in that, because if you're drawing down a water table, that has the potential to create a gap between another person's well and what the new water table is. So it's a pretty lengthy process. The impacts to structures, infrastructure, things like that are quite a bit less with the depth of these wells. But it's certainly something that the state is looking at heavily as they're reviewing applications and approving those.
Yeah, I think just that process, that should be closely monitored. I know some nearby cities have had some major issues, and I would hate to have any of our residents
For sure.
have a situation where their home starts
Yeah,
sinking a little
we
bit.
don't want to try and solve one problem by creating other problems.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting, too, the amount of leaks that you have. You said you had 8 in 1 week, 130 typically a year. And that's a leak less than every 3 days. And that's pretty tremendous on top of everything else you're doing. And so I would like to see us as a council, we all take this very seriously, our drinking water, but we're going to have to make some tough decisions, but definitely make some decisions to help your department and to give you what you need to benefit all of our residents. So, but thank you, though.
Thank you. Councilmember Oaks.
Josh, I just want to say thanks to your department just for the outstanding work that you all have done. I mean, the last 2 years of snow removal have been pretty hectic at times. So, and I think as overall, and laying it out like this, it allows everybody to see just the amount that goes in. And we very much appreciate each department head as they get up and they talk about their annual report and what really goes into it, and what you're able to get done. So just thanks.
no, thank you. We're 23 people in the Public Works Department, but the success and good things that are accomplished are done on the backs of 22 people that are the finest human beings that I've had the opportunity to work with. So thank you.
Councilmember Hunt.
Okay. Mostly, I just want to say thanks. I feel like every time I stop by the Ops Center and you explain to me the stuff you do, I'm always thinking, how is it possible with the number of people you have and the amount of stuff you have to do? And I think this presentation kind of shows that to everyone, just how is it possible that you get it all done. But I think you guys do a great job. I just had a couple questions, kind of, hopefully they'll be quick. So when I was shadowing with you guys, going around with your water guys, I think we talked about some of the tanks, and one of them possibly needing repair. And I can't remember, is that something that's coming up pretty close, or?
Yeah, so we just completed repairs on one of the Ward Road tanks. We have 2 tanks on Ward Road. The east tank, we just completed repairs on that. Started with just some metal components that we were replacing, and as we got in there, we saw some other issues, and that work kind of spread. So glad to have that tank back online, and we're going to take that and dovetail into those full inspections on all the other tanks as well.
Okay, cool. And then my other question, you mentioned the EPA testing on the water service line inventories, and I can't remember, are we finished with that? Did we finish that one up?
Yeah, so we've finished the field work now. We're currently finishing up the reporting mechanism for that, certifying to the state. We haven't found any service lines in Kaysville City that are made of lead. That's a really good thing in our opinion. But now we go through a process of trying to establish what that means for Kaysville in terms of future projects that the EPA might require, or sampling and monitoring needs. So, yeah.
Well, thanks, and thanks again for everything you guys and your department do.
Like I said, that's 22 people that are the greatest human beings that you'll ever meet. There's other great departments too, but I'm biased.
Councilmember Adams?
No, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Josh, thanks. I just have one question. Just on the 1 billion gallons of water that we get from Weber Basin. Glad that you're looking at some wells and some other resource options. What can we do to support you in that?
There's obviously a financial component to that. We're trying to focus primarily on grants and funding sources outside of city funds. But yeah, we don't know much about what that would look like at this point. When that time comes, there's also it's good to have support from your elected officials as you're applying for changes with the state and those types of things. So just overall support, pursuing that is probably the biggest thing at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
definitely do it. Thanks for your presentation. All right. Any conflicts of interest, council? Nope. Okay. Moving on to the consent items. Does someone want to make a motion here?
Yeah, I would like to actually make a motion that we remove consent items G and H for the purpose of council discussion.
Okay, sounds great. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to move the consent items
Yeah.
with those exceptions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve consent items A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hunt.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. So we've moved consent item G and H. Councilmember Jackson.
Yes, I would, the consent item G, an ordinance dissolving the Kaysville Power Advisory Board. I think it would be great to hear from Brian and to also have a discussion as a council about that, just because it has been in place, I believe, since 2016 or 2017, around that time frame, and just would like to have a little more open dialogue about that. So.
Okay, sounds great. Turn the time over to Jason.
Yes, as Councilmember Jackson said, the board's been in existence since 2016, and we've just had a lot of, as anyone that's been paying attention, a lot of council meetings, frankly, just not a lot of business for the board to consider, and just it's kind of become evident that the council has the bandwidth and the interest to take on directly a lot of these issues, as we've seen from some of the big decisions that have been made in the last few years. And as long as this council is interested in kind of taking on those issues directly, we felt like this is just becoming one of those, an extra layer of government that's not really necessary at this time. Should the board ever have an interest in bringing back a power advisory board, it'd be simple to do, just another ordinance reestablishing that if a future council wants that. But as Brian can attest, and he'll get up here in a minute, there's been other cities that have taken similar actions with their advisory boards, and we just feel like bringing the business of the power department to the council, it just actually kind of increases transparency with these discussions taking place at a much more conspicuous meeting. And but with that said, I know Brian is also here for questions and can add to that.
Yeah, I just strongly feel like there's I'm trying to think how to say it in the most tactful, appropriate way. But I really feel like the Power Advisory Board is one of those things that is just an unnecessary step. When I first got into this position, I was pretty gung-ho. I was going to utilize it. I was going to run with it. I was going to make all these things happen through them. And I quickly learned that it actually was a little bit frustrating when I would show up here and I would have 2 board members show up. And it was like, cool. And if we had a topic or an agenda that was really pressing, we had good attendance. But then what I found was, is I would come to you guys, and you guys wanted to know for yourselves. Rightfully so, you should. But you wanted to know for yourself the questions that I answered or gave to them. And in fact, you even asked even more questions, and we got more into the weeds about things. And I then started wondering, okay, then what does this really do? And so, and then I also found myself, we're part of UAMPS. We're also part of IPSA. Basically, every single municipality that has a power department in the state of Utah, I'm in close contact with in multiple meetings throughout the month. And I found myself not even going to the advisory board for questions. I was going to my peers that were actually living and going through and experiencing the things that we were doing and going through. The advisory board, super awesome people, very intelligent, have a lot to offer. But they're not going through what we are going through. They're not experiencing the day-to-day challenges like the other 40 other municipalities and peers that I have are. And so as I found myself that I was turning to them for counsel and for direction and for understanding, and then I was bringing that to you as a council. And in return, you'd give me questions, and we would discuss things and move forward from there. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's where I feel. That's my feelings. Of course, you are the council, and you need to counsel and make that decision. And I will support whatever you do, 100%, of course. But I just feel like, as busy as we all are, and as much as we have on our plates, I just feel like it's an effective and efficient move. And that you as a council, I trust you, and all of you have been here for several years. And I look back at how many years you've been here, and has there ever been a decision that you made based off of the advisory board suggestions that you didn't already come to the conclusion or the understanding on your own and move forward with your best understanding, you personally, to what should be done for the city? And so that's kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm standing, and that's where I'm sitting. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have in addition.
I would just like to comment that, as a department head, to me, it's no different. And since the power company, to me, is a very integral part of Kaysville City, it's one of the most important things that we oversee as a council. And I can't imagine what it would be like for the public works to have a board, the fire department to have a board, the police department to have a board, that they had to liaison between the council every time they tried to get something done. It's just another layer of government. And I think with the department's head we have now and the job that Brian's doing, he gets us the information we need. The decisions that he needs to have done through the council, I'm sure he doesn't want to have to go through another layer of government. And I think that we don't want it to go through another layer of government. We like to be efficient. We like to move on. We like to be able to handle the things. We have to do what our staff recommends most of the time. That's what we rely on as our experts. And I think it just adds an additional layer that we don't need. I can't imagine if we did that to every single department. I don't know exactly why we went to the power board originally, but I think it has slowed down and showed its inefficiency. And so I'm very much in favor of disbanding it and having it come to the council.
Thank you, Councilmember Blackham. Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, just a quick question. Have you had any feedback from the members of the Power Advisory Board, and could you speak to that or no?
Yeah, so I sent an email out to all of them to inform them of what we were presenting to council as a consent item in this meeting. And at the end of that email, I basically just said I would love to talk with you if any of you have any concerns, questions, feel indifferent about this. Please reach out to me, let me know. And I never heard back from any of them.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt.
I guess I'll just kind of reiterate some of the things that have been said, but like Josh said, their department is not the only department doing a heavy lift. I know Power also is doing a lot of work, and like Councilmember Blackham said, it's a redundancy and it's using up time. So I think, you know, if we can take that off of your plate, then we'll be using taxpayer dollars in a better way. And especially like if it increased transparency, but I really think that it coming here will increase transparency more than it going through that board. So I'm also in favor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. I'm in favor of it. I think that there's some boards like, you know, we have a Parks and Recreation Board where I think that there's sometimes things that involve think tanking from residents that can be very powerful. You know, you're talking about a park and where it might go and things like that. This to me has never seemed like super, unless you had a bunch of experts, which I know there's been some that have been part of the board, but for the most part, it's just has not made sense to have this board, and especially where you're talking about the attendance level. I support it.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to mention, appreciate the time and consideration you've given it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Jason, also from the staff's perspective and from everything that people said, the council members said. So Planning Commission is required by the state as part of a land use authority process. The Power Board is an optional board that the city adopted, you know, a couple years ago, and the purpose was to increase transparency, obviously, and we have done that. And so, like Brian said, we have such an involved council. I'm super grateful. I know Councilmember Blackham goes to some of the IPA meetings. Some others of us have gone to those meetings. I've been able to really be involved from the on the IPA legislation. Bruce Rigby, who works for the city, Brian has been very involved. Jason has been very involved. And so, as council members, we really do care about the details in power. And so, it's not just eliminating this board because we don't want to hear other people's opinion. We do, but like people have mentioned, we do want to be the source for that information. And even though the Power Board meetings were public, they weren't really attended. This is much more of a high-profile platform to have these open discussions. And so it really gives us an opportunity to truly educate our community and one another as we have these discussions. So I'm also in favor of that. So
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. We approve consent item G.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. All right, item H. Nate, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at this, I agree with it. And there's just one, the bullet points on the executive summary, it says staff believes the following items, among others, should be addressed in an ordinance to prevent and mitigate issues with additional car wash businesses. And the bullet points, prohibition of car washes when they are adjacent to residential uses, standards for sound, standards for lighting, standards for water conservation. And I just wanted to add another bullet point. I know that there's probably other issues that this will cover, but the oversaturation of car washes in our city, we're a large city, but we are sandwiched in between other cities, and I just think that what we have is too many. And so I would like the oversaturation aspect of the car wash business to be spelled out and included in this executive summary. And I would like that to be focused on as well as these other issues as staff goes through and does their study. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember, anyone? Councilmember Adams.
No, you
flipped your button faster
than I did. Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Hunt.
Okay, I just want to say thanks to Councilmember Jackson for bringing this up. You know, it's always good to have additional clarity, and you know, I get jokes all the time from people outside of Kaysville saying, "Oh, are you going to get another car wash?" And I'm like, "You guys, it's too much." But it's true. I mean, it's an unfortunate thing that we can joke about it. And so I'm definitely in favor of that. And I think, you know, this is exactly what we should do. Just because I'm kind of a land use nerd and I have wanted to do a deeper dive on some of our city code, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to look at this. I'm excited to work on it with staff. And I think, you know, with the stuff we've experienced recently, it's totally appropriate to push pause and look at this some more. So.
Thank you. I was just going to mention, so for those who aren't maybe familiar with what we're doing here, what we're doing is we are putting a pause on it. We want to look at our ordinances. One thing that we have 2 new car washes, drive-through car washes in Kaysville, and we didn't realize, at least I personally didn't, the impact that car washes can have. And so we just want to make sure that we are responsive to our residents. We do everything we can to protect you as homeowners and as neighborhoods, to put enough buffers around car washes to make sure that they are an amenity in the community and not a, what's the word? A liability. Okay, great, thank you. So that's what this would do. It doesn't ban car washes forever, for sure. It just gives the city and us as council members an opportunity to get some, do some research, create an ordinance that will really protect our residents, but also allow great businesses to develop within our city. So that being said, Councilmember Adams, yes.
Just a few things. I mean, I think I have a little bit different perspective because I live on the west side of Kaysville, and I have a lot of neighbors who've said, why don't we have a car wash here on the west side? And so I think that while there is maybe some oversaturation in this neck of the woods, I don't think that, and I'm sure that that's what you meant by the ordinance, is that there would be some consideration about demographic or geography where they're located, because I know that there's probably a need. A lot of people are signed up for these car wash services, and they would like to have them more accessible, especially with the corridor going in. You get on it and then you get off and your car's smattered with bugs, and so I think that it would service a lot of our citizens to have some on the west side.
Okay, sorry.
She disagrees.
Well,
but
we
that's
don't take,
okay.
Yeah, thank you. It's okay. We don't take comments from the audience, but thank you. Sorry. We try to keep it really, tight, but thank you. We will talk to you afterwards, for sure. Thank you.
So, having said that, I had a couple questions on this moratorium. Nick, 6 months typically, right, is what it allows for. Is there anything that we can put in here to speed up that process? I know of at least 2 businesses that are interested in knowing the results of this, and I hate to, money is holding up that land is always an issue.
Yeah, so 180 days is the maximum. That's the maximum that a municipality can enact a temporary land use restriction. So that's the maximum. As soon as we had an ordinance, as part of that ordinance process, we would sunset this TLUR and let that ordinance just take effect. So it could be done, in theory, as soon as the next meeting, work item on the next meeting, an action item.
And is there an advisable action that we could have as council that could require it to come faster than 6 months?
That could certainly be part of your motion. I think these are disfavored in the law, and for private property rights interests, these are not, TLURs are not favored. So as soon as we can get through this process, this is a priority for staff, and as soon as we can get this back and turned around, we want to do that. It's just not something that,
looks
the
good.
legal system favors or likes a lot.
Huh, okay.
So I guess the motion could be to include a sentence or something, just saying we want to look at this as soon as possible.
Yeah, we request that staff prioritize it, and we would certainly honor that.
I know that I've mentioned, boy, it would be nice to have a car wash on the west side, because, we do live over there. So anyway, a lot of people do. Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay, Councilmember.
I just think part of the ordinance is that people on the west side can't complain about dirty cars.
That's true.
So.
I like that. Okay.
We can certainly draft that.
Yeah, there. Sorry.
All right. Would someone like to make a motion then? Or?
I'm not sure. I'm happy to make a motion, but I'm.
Is it a motion, or is it just sort of a direction that you need? I think it's more direction.
we probably need a motion to enact the ordinance, the temporary land use.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I will make the motion that we enact the temporary land use regulation as written in section 8, in number 8. And I'm okay then to put a direction to the staff to make it a priority, but I also don't want it rushed.
For sure.
So, just because, yeah, anyways.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Because it's just, we're just authorizing it.
Right.
here.
Okay, Councilmember Blackham, thank you. All right, Councilmember Oaks.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
May I just add something, Mayor?
Yes.
I guess I just want to add, I'm okay with trying to move it along quickly, because we always have our businesses at heart, but I definitely have the opinion that I don't want to rush too much because it's really not our job to make things work for developers. I mean, we work with developers, we play well with developers, but that's not at the end of the day what we're supposed to be. That's not at the end of the day like our main concern, I guess.
And the only reason I made the motion is you need the TRUL so you can get the ordinance. We have not even dove in, the staff nobody's even dove into the actual antics or the specifics of anything of this. And so all this does is authorize it so that somebody can't come in and do something we absolutely don't want in the next 180 days. This just authorizes it to pause, gives the staff ample time to get all the direct information that they need to get to create an ordinance that we're willing to look at and approve.
Well, and I
That's
agree.
all.
I agree. I don't know, wanted to put that out there.
Well, and Mayor, can I mean, I would disagree with you, Councilwoman Hunt, on the fact that, you're protecting the citizens, but also some citizens. If you go in and you purchase land looking at what you can do on that land, and then, within weeks, a city says, hey, actually, we may not let you do that on that land that you just bought, that's been zoned to allow for certain things. I mean, I get it. We have to protect it. But I think that's probably partially why Nick's saying this is a sketchy deal, because you've allowed someone to buy a piece of property with land use in mind, and then you sort of step in and say, we're going to change it on you. It's one thing to request a rezone. That's a totally different thing. You're buying land with the intent that you're going to rezone it. That may or may not happen, but when it's allows for something and then you say, no, maybe we won't let it be allowed for that, I think you're dancing on very sketchy water, in my opinion. So that's my hesitancy with it.
Yeah, can I speak to that as well?
Thank you.
And I politely disagree on the sketchy aspect of it. I think these are tough decisions, and absolutely we need to help our city develop the right way. But there are some portions of our city, some pieces of property that are right next to homes. I know on the west side and other areas. And ultimately what it comes down to is we need to make these tough decisions within the law, within the bounds that we're allowed to help the city grow the right way. And unless we get creative and make these hard decisions, I just don't know if our city will be the type of city we want 10 years from now. And this is an opportunity at this point in time for us to set things straight so that we do have good workable solutions. And Councilmember Adams, I think this process will allow staff to do some of these studies so that we can have a stronger code in place so that areas that are acceptable can be developed for that use. And so I don't think this necessarily shuts down some of those properties. It just allows us to have more time without that pressure. So.
Okay, any other comments? All right, thank you, council members. We'll now move to our work item 6A, which is Get Healthy Utah application. Turn the time over to Jason.
Thank you, Mayor. This action item was, I think, started by Councilmember Hunt several months ago. To her credit, So Get Healthy Utah is a nonprofit that the mission is to promote better health in the state through physical activity, healthier eating, better mental health. The organization is endorsed by the Utah League of Cities and Towns, and they have a designation program where cities can apply to be designated as a healthy community. I think over 40 cities in Utah are currently designated as healthy communities, and every year, some of you have seen at the League Conference, they highlight some of those cities. I believe 5 cities in Davis County are currently designated as healthy communities through Get Healthy Utah, including some of our neighbors like Layton and Fruit Heights, Centerville. So the requirement is that there are 3 things. Number one, in what really the business item is here tonight is there has to be a letter of support from the governing body, and there's a letter in your packet there. And then we have to demonstrate that we are meeting 6 health initiatives currently. There are 3 categories of health initiatives. There's physical activity, mental health, and healthy eating. And we are currently already meeting criteria for 2 items under each of those 3 categories. So that, again, we have to show that we're meeting 6 of these items or 6 initiatives already. So just for example, we're already under the mental health category providing mental health services to our firefighters and police officers and employees and their families. We have a grant, as many of you know, for a mental health therapist that provides mental health therapy for employees and their families, which is we're one of the few in the state that has that grant and that position. So that meets that criteria. For example, under the access to healthy food, you'll remember that the city recently passed ordinances to make it easier for residents to do beekeeping in their homes and to have chickens, and so that meets the criteria. And then, for example, under the physical activity, anything that promotes better health and physical activity, such as the trailhead improvements that the city did last year at the Shoreline Trail, the Wilderness Park. So again, there aren't any cost implications to this right now. If we receive this designation, which we will if we apply, we'll have that designation for 3 years. And then come 3 years, we have to do 6 more initiatives, 2 under each of those 3 categories to keep it going. And so at that time, the city can determine, do we want to keep going or not? I forgot to mention the 3rd requirement to get this designation is that the city has to have a health coalition. And our Parks and Rec Advisory Board is offered to serve as that function. So they'll meet quarterly and just kind of provide the oversight for implementing these strategies or picking new strategies when we have to renew in 3 years. So just wanted to make sure that this was on the agenda so you knew about it and could ask questions and voice any concerns that you might have or support for it.
Appreciate your presentation. Thank you. And kudos to Councilmember Hunt. This is a great opportunity for Kaysville City to highlight our recreation programs, our parks, our trails, and all of the ways in which we encourage our community and make available opportunities for our community to live healthy, active lifestyles. So, Councilmember Hunt, did you want to?
Well, everyone's probably tired of hearing my voice tonight. I'm a little bit tired of hearing my voice, but if you'll humor me for a little longer. I'm excited about this. I'm hopeful that we can be awarded the designation. I think it'll help us just to continue to do what we do as a city. And just reiterate, it doesn't take any tax money. It's only stuff that we would want to be doing anyways because we do focus on health so much in our community. And if, the requirements become too onerous, we can decide to be done. So I like it. I think it's a good opportunity. And if nothing else, I think it's a good opportunity to recognize our staff and our Parks and Rec department for the great work that they do.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council? Nope. Okay, sounds good. Now we'll move to the Code Blue Shelter update, which I know is why everyone's here. Just a second. Sorry, I swallowed strange. Okay, I'll take this one. As a member of the task force, I do have an opportunity to be a vote on the task force for the Code Blue /winter response. Just a couple of points of clarification. So, winter response is a winter response. Winter response is from October to, tell me.
April 15th.
April 15th. Okay, I had a little bit of a pause there. And the code blue could happen any time during the year. So code blue is triggered by temperature. So code blue occurs when it's 18 degrees or colder. That could randomly happen in September, for example, outside of that winter shelter response window. So the task force, the state of Utah created this law requiring the counties of our second-class size to return in a plan. And the plan is for you could choose. So Davis County decided, okay, we'll do a code blue response, which is a 16-bed requirement during any time of the year it gets 18 degrees or colder, which will probably only happen October through April 15th. And then instead of doing a full winter response, we are going to turn in a plan for some sort of a future solution. So the reason that we didn't have an update last council meeting was that we had some pending meetings. We, as in the task force, had some meetings. Had an opportunity to meet as a task force to kind of discuss some options. We were invited to the state capitol to meet with Representative Lisenby and the creator of H. Bill 298, Tyler Clancy. And they wanted to give us some perspective and some clarification in terms of what the law actually means. The law does not mean that we have to build a permanent facility. The law means that we have to provide a plan for some sort of a response in the future. So they wanted to clarify that. We had spoken earlier about, last year even, about a warming bus. Councilmember Blackham's wife was watching a video or something. You can tell us the story.
Yeah, she watches this guy in Canada who sells stuff. I don't know, he just kind of goes and gets estates and sells them and does things like that. And he mentioned how, and that they take care of their homeless people in a bus. And so I knew he lived near Edmonton, so I started researching Edmonton, and I looked up Edmonton, and they showed that they do that. And so I looked up other places in Canada, and they have had a very successful run of taking care of their homeless in those cold nights, because it is kind of a life-saving deal, and it was working very well. And I thought, why can't we do that? And I first said it, people thought it was crazy or whatever, but it actually worked.
We didn't think you were crazy.
Oh, there are some people that said it was inhumane.
Not for this idea.
Not our group. We did not say that. So,
but not this bunch.
Yeah.
Some people that Tammy proposed said it was inhumane or whatever.
Yes.
So I don't know, but no, it works. And as I read the articles and as my wife led me to it and that, it really did work. It made a lot of sense. And with all the complaints that we've had and everything that we hear from our constituents and the people, this seemed like a viable way to deal with this. And I think, and then our Tammy and the mayor and our city manager have done a lot of research, and I'll let them tell that because it's really cool.
Okay, well, so I'll turn the time over to Jason because he's done all of the research moving forward. And will you just share what you've learned?
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of conversations with Canadians the last few weeks. Nice people. I feel like I'm happier this week. No, seriously, a lot of great reports on how well it's worked. And the best thing is how easy it is to implement. We came across a company or an organization in Florida that builds these warming buses. They call them Dignity buses. And they take used buses like off the street, like Greyhound buses that are being retired or other. They're still very much roadworthy, fine buses, but they get them at a pretty good rate. And they employ people that were formerly homeless, a lot of them, to retrofit these buses. And so they come with, for example, 20 private sleeping pods. Each sleeping pod's got its own, little bed, new mattress bedding, a privacy curtain, lights and electrical outlet, everything you need. So, and they only cost $150,000, which is still a lot of money, but much less than I think a lot of people thought. We were hearing figures of $1 million, I think, from some people. So $150,000 for a bus that's ready to roll from day one, and they deliver within 4 weeks of order time. So they've already got a lot of these ready to go. The only things that need to happen are really kind of wrapping it on the outside with whatever branding, the customer would want. Of course, they have restrooms on board and really everything you'd need. So I know it's being looked at and it's exciting. Hopefully it's something that works. But the two things that I heard over and over from some of the people up in Canada were, number one, this serves the homeless population really well, because one of the biggest issues is when you have a physical shelter, getting people to that location is really difficult. So you're already going to need to have transportation built in. And then a lot of these people, they're worried about being stranded as a physical location. So if you picked up somebody in another part of Davis County, and they wanted to get back to that location the next morning, they'd be maybe hesitant to be dropped off and stranded at some physical location. So the bus, of course, takes care of that. And then the other thing is simply, obviously, the concerns that every city has about having a physical location right inside their city and the ramifications of that. So the bus idea really addresses that problem, the NIMBYism, as they call it, better than probably any other solution. And that's what I also heard from a lot of the people I spoke with up in Canada. So again, hopefully it's something that will work, but so far everything we've learned is pretty positive.
Thank you.
You say it's pretty positive, eh?
Your mic's not on.
Sorry?
Pretty positive, eh?
A, yes.
Yeah.
That's right, A.
I was really slow on that one. Okay, to catch on to what you're saying. All right, so an update from the task force. We have had several conversations, several meetings. We, as a task force, said, okay, this is the plan that we would like to submit to the state. The plan would be to buy a warming bus. We'll buy one and see how it works. We believe it'll work. So I have had the opportunity to reach out to some of the cities in the United States that have had these buses in play, and they really like them. They've said that they are very effective. There is obviously a cost to maintain them. Most cities put 2 or 3 people on the bus so the bus driver and then a couple of people, an officer, and then they sometimes will have different counselors come on from different agencies, and they're able to sit down with people and say, okay, tell me your story. What would you need? What do you need? And people really seem very receptive to that and really like it. The other thing that they like about the bus is that you can bring pets. One of the biggest deterrents for people to go to a shelter is they can't bring their pets. And so there is a compartment for pets on the bus. They can also bring their belongings. They don't have to necessarily check them in. They just can put them in a compartment on the bus that also keeps them safe, so they feel good about that. And the other feedback is these beds have individual charging stations, and so people are expected to be quiet because it is a sleeping bus. That's the purpose of it. But they can also have their devices. They can charge their devices. So it really does bring back the ability to have dignity. These are really nice buses. Like Jason mentioned, these are big commercial Greyhound type buses. So right now, where we're at as far as a task force is we've said, all right, county members, county staff, please look into this. We would like to see a plan prepared for this because we really feel as mayors on the task force that this is a good solution for Davis County as far as where we're at right now. And that's really what we're here to report. We haven't had a final opportunity to see the plan yet because the county's working on it. So if I have anything to update, I will share that. The county hasn't officially taken a vote, I guess, either way. So in terms of, we were talking about other shelter locations or warming shelter locations. I think those locations are on the back burner right now because we're really focused as a task force on let's see if this bus solution will work. And let's see what we can do and what a plan looks like. I think it is probably contingent upon, does a bus qualify for the grant funding that the county would have access to? So I think that the county staff is looking into that right now for us. We feel confident that it is. I don't work in grants, so I can't speak to that. I haven't done the research on the county side. But that's kind of where we are in terms of trying to make a final decision. I did have an opportunity to go to the Capitol, like I mentioned, and be involved in a meeting, and I did get to talk to the Department of Homeless Services, I think is their official title. And I said, tell me if the bus idea is a bad idea, and we'll come up with another idea. We'll see what else we can work on. But Kaysville City is very committed to looking into it, and we'll do the research. We'll spend the time to find out everything we can to do as much work for you as possible to give you information to make a decision. And so I was told that that is why not? Let's try to pilot a program. I said, just tell me to my face if we need to drop it and move on. And I was told, no, let's look at this program, submit a plan, and the state will look at it and review it. They just haven't I think that there was a bus in Salt Lake maybe a couple years ago that didn't go well. I think it was a school bus. It was run by a nonprofit. It wasn't successful for, I'm not even sure what the reasons were. Mostly I heard it was just not a very nice facility, a nice bus, and people didn't want to get on it. So I appreciate Jason so much for taking the time, doing the work. Appreciate the council's willingness to support him spending his time, a little bit of his time that way, to do the research. We are grateful for the community opportunity to engage with you and to learn about what you guys would like us to do. And so that's what we're going to take to the task force. Again, if it comes down to the point where, you know, for whatever reason, the task force says, oh, the bus idea, we don't want to do it this year. We want to have facilities. Then as Kaysville, our plan is to vote against that because we really believe this bus idea will work. And we really feel like we've pretty much custom wrapped a plan. You know, here's a plan. Plug and play this plan. And there are videos on YouTube. So look up Dignity Bus and you'll see the buses are operating in Florida, Rhode Island, in Canada. And you can just Google that and it will show you there's tours of the bus so people can see what they look like. So, Councilmember Oaks.
Jason,
Mayor, if I may, yeah, I was going to add, one nice thing about this too is the county or the state requirement requires that the county provide 16 beds or cots for Code Blue nights, and so the 20-bed bus would certainly meet that. And in reference to your point about the bus that was tried in Salt Lake, a lot of attention was given to that as an unsuccessful model, and like you said, it was an old school bus. It didn't have sleeping pods. It just was if anyone sat in a school bus recently, I mean, your knees don't even fit inside those little aisles. So, but these are completely different, and I think that's what hopefully will turn a lot of people's attention to seeing that this is a much better idea than maybe what they thought.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilmember Oaks.
I just want to go on record just to say thanks to Mayor Tran for sticking to her guns on this. From the very start, we've said it's not a good idea to put it brick and mortar facility in Kaysville, and laughed to scorn it many times on the bus idea, but you stuck to your guns amidst some pretty vocal opposition. And from what I've read, most of the committee members or task force members have seemed to have fallen in line with, let's try this as a pilot program. And even Lorraine, Commissioner Kamalo, you know, said might be a believer in this. So hats off, and I just want to go on record saying thanks. And
thank you.
And Jason, for your dedicated effort also on doing the dirty work of actually having to talk to Canadians. So.
Canadian accent.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to echo what Councilmember Oaks said. Thank you, Mayor, for all the work you've done on this, and for all the mayors in the county. It's been quite the learning experience, but we are in a really good spot right now, it sounds like. And you mentioned animals are accepted on the bus, and that reminded me that the county and all the cities are putting money in, but the county is currently going to build a $15 million animal shelter facility, which is much needed. And so I think $150,000 is just a drop in the bucket. And I imagine that the cities will all contribute. We will need the county to contribute, hopefully the state. But I'm excited about this, and I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to try this pilot program and see what comes of it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? No? Okay, so to answer the questions that were brought up during public comment, Mr. Ferguson, you mentioned something about H. Bill 499. There have been two other bills that passed in this last legislative session that ended in March that addressed some updates to that. And so one of the bills removed the buffers so that the tobacco, the grade school, were not going to be applicable for Code Blue/winter response because of the urgency and the intention of saving lives. And so I do believe, from what I'm hearing, that there will be some updates to that and to maybe put some buffers back in. I don't know for sure since I'm not at the state legislature, but I have heard that there maybe will be some tweaks to the bill. Jill, you mentioned Community Resource Center /homeless shelter. Are they the same thing? Technically, yes. Community Resource Center is an idea that people within the state have in other states because it brings in community resources to a facility. So ideally, you would have a caseworker, you would have representatives from different organizations also in this facility saying, okay, what do you need? Okay, great, go next door, and talk to someone 5 feet away. Or go over here and talk to someone in the same facility, because there are people much smarter than me who live this daily who believe that one of the big problems and frustrations for people who are unsheltered is that they can't get to those facilities. So it's a model that that's in play in other areas, and some people believe that that's a good model. So Community Resource Center, homeless shelter, yes. And then you also asked about does each city have to respond with an individual plan, I think. Okay, so an email was sent out by the chair of the task force that said, okay, I would like each city to provide me with a location that we could consider within your city to take care of Code Blue/winter response. And I don't believe that all the cities responded. I'm really not sure. I wasn't receiving those emails. I did see a couple emails come through. Kaysville responded with our bus plan because we solidly believe in that. And we did not suggest a shelter location in our city because we, like we've said, don't believe that that's an appropriate use of funds. Several cities did provide some locations that could be possibly used, and no decisions have been made on those locations because the discussion, like Jason mentioned and Perry mentioned, is really focusing right now on can we do these buses and can this bus plan work? So that's where we're at. Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate your participation and your presence here tonight. All right, council member reports. Does anyone have anything? No? Okay, I'll just say thank you to everyone who participated in the 4th of July celebrations. It was an absolutely outstanding parade, and the fireworks show was great, and everything that happened, it was a very safe parade. We had 2 floats that were disqualified from the parade and escorted out because they weren't abiding by the parade rules. So I think that's a great thing. We want people to know we take safety. That is our #1 priority during these events. And so moving forward, we are so grateful for Heidi Christensen. She chaired the committee for the parade, and she did an outstanding job. She's agreed to do it next year, too, so we're really happy about that. I was going to say, I don't want to overcommit her, but we're so grateful. She did. I saw her, and she said she's good for 1 more year. We'll see how the future goes beyond that. But we just so appreciate that. It was hours and hours of her life. And also, she had a team. She had some helpers, and so we really appreciate everybody. We appreciate our Parks and Rec, our Public Works, all the departments that chipped in, police, fire. It was a wonderful, successful celebration. So anything else, Jason? I'll turn the time over to you.
Not really, Mayor. I've got some other items I'll put on the report tomorrow, but just an announcement. If it's on put it on your calendar. We'll have another meeting with the county on the CRA, the Community Reinvestment Area, and that's currently scheduled for August 13th. So we'll put out some announcements, or if you're interested in attending that. But hopefully that'll continue on successfully.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.